to read. And
He knows not right now. This is these are the parts they like. Kaladin is commanding a light and so they do it. And then they do it because they know he's right.
not because of that, you should have started. Because you know
Right now, he's doing it because he showed the sharp blade. But Dalnar and Arvind did it because they knew he was right. So he's not the good one. Yeah. So he's been speaking the wrong person. He was good with Laran. Laran is in command. She's the action figure. This guy is just there as a placeholder. He's old and stupid. Does color end up with Laran? It's a speculation.
right now you haven't been anyone who is going to have to study.
Yes. Like among the choices, Laran seems the best, like, the better one. Yeah, the better one.
But Sharon never been seen on that season.
See, I think we discussed this already.
They're both with negative
No, and that is one thing. Then Sharan is like a taker. She will drain this guy completely.
is the only jail who may take the responsibility for something.
Uh, like, Sharan will just use color without a second thought.
So you actually feel she's that kind of person who
She is like I don't know. I don't get her. Okay, she says a very complex character. She has some good intent, and then she feels guilty for doing wrong things.
she does
But then when it comes to her survival, she doesn't care. Like when she realizes that oh, I have to do this for my survival, there's no second thought. So Adrenaline can deal with her because he knows how to deal with people like her. Aladdin do this now. Watch a lot.
no friend her selfish even after 2 months.
She is. She is. She's citizen first, but yes. Like I get her, but just saying they are not. They are not meant to be. She's not an evil person. She's a bad person.
A good person.
She's definitely not a good person. She's not something Kalakan.
This golden bright beads.
So there is some more people will meet soon. We'll see. Kalakan will be more of a look.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, there will be more women characters in the books.
Let's see. But I think Kalakan will want to marry a dark type woman. But he hates light type people. So I'm guessing next time some dark type woman is going
The recording is on.
not saying it. Saying dark type. What is the dark type?
Weird stuff in this life service.
Probably they do. Must I like,
In a lab.
hmm?
In a lab, other people can make the shoot. I don't think I know someone discuss stuff or you want to do it. That's what
See, the attitude with which we talk about it doesn't give an ugly mindset.
that is not in a lab, you're not supposed to be doing.
Yes. There's one person we can affect with that one conversation. You're part of the conversation. So just stop it. To take care of your fun and always feeling like you need to save everyone, go through a battle. You mind your own business.
It's
I
true.
agree with that.
It's true.
Yeah. He has accepted a life, whatever it is. So,
Question of life, whatever is in your life, it's everything will be question of life. And my father's good and he's my husband. So it is what it is. So
what
how dare she say this? You should really don't do the thing of keeping her kid.
she's
Just
being his
imagine.
wife, I'm not surprised. I don't agree with her, I'm not surprised with her. She's being his wife, she's playing her game with her role. So that's the girl you're going to marry. No, it's a girl I was never going to marry, no matter what happened. I like her. Really.
You say like that.
I have no idea. Maybe because she's on the wrong side, but she's still being vulnerable.
Always be vulnerable.
Yeah, maybe
Vulnerable
she's
what?
honoring her own commitments to it. That's stupid, guy.
I don't think so. I think it's because she has taken charge and she's doing something. Yes, I think that they have organized the people with all these things.
I'm reading every line. I'm here, I'm reading every line.
You don't know what calluses?
Yes, about the calluses. He said they've grown calluses, and then he says that maybe not as much as my father would have wanted me to grow. Uh, yeah, really. Like, why would I skip these? But these are both some points.
Even when nothing else is happening.
So it's like, readiness of preservation.
Hmm?
Readiness of preservation.
Okay. doesn't want to change his language.
So yeah, but you're searching for it and something else. What's it? It's spoken. And then just like the protect those today happens. But
But
see, unload spears in the unexpected storm.
it's not hard. It's actually not hard to hide out some skills.
Is she a shark there or something? Does she have a spread or something more than
Why did you say?
I don't know. It just feels just like this and says something. Okay, that's a splendid captain. Wow, it's a blessing. I think this is splendid. Loyal, good, splendid captain. It is. See, we didn't even answer her. He's just telling her what to write.
Norman didn't ask him.
She asked, "No, you really think she'd respond to you?" And then
Immediately
yeah,
Norman is still
and then
speaking.
he says the last thing I did before leaving. Yeah, Naval jumped and then wrote it. Paladin, Mrs. Dalma, calling a status soldier. Very unexpected, sir. And worried that they were first last to before it. So if you are like, you will start to see what you can do. Be careful. You don't have any stuff. For instance, a book chapter, like, follow. Side. No, Kaladin has his brother now. You-
Mhm.
instead honorable people.
See, the point is,
Why does he put yourself into these people are putting on their grateful? They have
that's,
photo
that's
declare
why you see he's living by his morals. I think Liren would never forgive himself. He left them and then went and then there something happened to them.
I know that he's going by his morals, but that doesn't mean I agree with his morals. But you see how living colorism is in a different way. With all these extreme stubbornness towards its own beliefs and all, you got from stuff. And they always clash. You think I can read the way you're living with it?
I didn't think you were reading. I'm reading quotes. Last is a comfort. That's a comfort. And his rebound in the night sleeping. That's the reading part from the guilt for not repairing, guilt for not remembering. Yes. The book. Can I give this book and I'll take it later?
When,
Huh?
when I might have to hear them.
It's okay, I'll take it tomorrow. I'm not going to read immediately.
At least you're not going to read at night.
Maybe not.
I just
Fine.
close the door.
Actually, also slowly डाला और खींचा भी अच्छा था कि
Good evening. This is the overview session of uh, the course Structure Analysis taught by Professor Amit Shah. I'm Trisha Chakravarti, one of the course teaching assistants. I'm a PhD student at the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. I'll start with the question we addressed in the first class. Why do we need structure analysis? A structure analysis is a step that is performed prior to the design stage. So it provides basically in design what do we need, what are the what are the inputs and output. The input is the one second. So the input is the we have some overall loads on the structure, like some dead loads, live loads, wind loads, earthquake loads. All of this depend on the requirement, whether it is a residential building or a commercial building, and which zone, the geographical features, and the height of the building, which determines the wind load. So these loads are the requirements, like the inputs, and the soil criteria. The soil profile is the input, and there is we have an architectural plan. So we have an overall like a overview of the arrangements of the beams and the floors. But as civil engineers, when we are doing design, we have the right to change the positions of columns if we need. We have the right to add shear walls to hold the structure up. And so the process that is followed is, first assuming we design is an iterative process, and it does not have only one solution. So we will assume some dimensions of beams, columns, some materials, and then we apply the wind loads, dead loads, live load on those, and then we solve the member forces and the displacements of each structural element separately. So software is like STAD. That's what they do. We make a beam column arrangement. We give some materials as input, and we give the loads, overall loads, and then STAD internally performs a structural analysis. So it finds out the internal forces, stresses, and the deflections, displacement profiles, everything of each beam, column, slab, foundation, everything. And then it checks, like the design part is checking that the whatever stress is developed in those material or in the material, is that enough, is the material strong enough to take that. And if the answer is no, then we have to redesign, in the sense we might use a stronger material like M25 concrete. We might increase it to M30, or we might increase the dimensions of the beam, we might increase the depth of the slab, and then we have to carry out the structural analysis again based on the new structure that we have assumed. And so long as that fail or pass kind of response will come for each limit state. So long as all the limit states don't pass, we have to keep redesigning it. And suppose there is one thing called sway, like in tall structures. Suppose the roof deflection is too high, then we will need to make the structure stiffer. So we might need to provide some shear walls, and then again, and then there's torsion. If a building is undergoing torsion, instead you might have seen that there's a torsion check. You can visually see if the bending is allowed, like bending in the x direction and y direction is allowed. But if there is torsion in the building, then you have to redesign it again, because torsion is not allowed as per the Indian standard codes. The torsion is not allowed at all. So then we have to again put shear walls, increase the material properties and all. And so that is, then finally when we see that everything is fine, if the material is in material and structural elements are enough to take the loads that we have found out everywhere, and the deflection criteria are also met everywhere, then we can see that it is fine. So you see, structure analysis and design are approach the problem in opposite ways. Analysis starts with, and on the other hand, this is what I explained was the design. And analysis, which we have been doing for the past all the weeks, what is the difference? It is like we are given the material, we are given the geometry properties, we are given the exact loads, and we just have to find out the response. And structure analysis of any one element can only have one answer, because we have seen so far it can only have one answer. But design does not, it's not necessary. In design, someone might propose a 400 by 300 beam column that dimension. Some might say 450 cross 250, and both of them might be passing. So the design is a more fluid thing. It's ultimately our job as structural engineers is to do structural design, and structural analysis is a step before that. So it is performed prior to the design stage. It provides the internal forces and stresses corresponding to the design loads, and it also provides the deflections. And this will typically account for the materials used, applied loads, and geometry of the structure or object. Now we start with overview of the course. Phase 1 was analysis of determinate structure, and phase 2 was analysis of indeterminate structures. Only week 12 is left. Tomorrow, I'll be covering the topic of week 12, which is stiffness matrix and method. Apart from that, we have covered everything. Now, phase 1, week 1. Types of internal forces. Now, there are four types of internal forces. There is axial force, which is a pulling kind of force or a pushing kind of force along the length of the beam. Then there is shear force, which is transverse to the beam length. This is the length of the beam. Then shear force is parallel to it, like it's perpendicular to it. And there is bending moment due to shear force. There is a bending moment generally developed. That is one. And there is torsion, which is this. So torsion, the sense of torsion is along the length of the beam. So you can say that bending moment and shear force are both due to forces perpendicular to the length, and axial and torsion are both along the length of the beam. Then there are some common classification of elements and boundary conditions. Classification of elements, we have beams, trusses, and frame elements, the obvious ones. Beams are like trusses are made of two force members. All the members can only undergo axial force, so they can be tension or compression, and that is made by the geometric. The way it is assembled geometrically ensures that. So all the nodes are like all the members are pin jointed, and beams typically undergo only bending moment and shear force. So we expect a beam to only have transverse loading, not axial loading. And if it has axial loading, it becomes a frame element. But beams and frames are structurally not different, unlike trusses, which are different. Trusses have all the members are pin jointed, so that's how it always redistributes the load such that all the members act as two force members. But that is not true for beam or frames. If you put axial load on a beam, it will act like a frame element without any physical change. And boundary conditions. Now, bound and in fact, in a beam, even though we say that a beam should not undergo axial force, if you put a beam on two rollers, we will call it an unstable structure. Like you can tell that anyway, no horizontal load is going to come. So if you put it on two rollers, then it is stable, because if there is only transverse loading, technically on two rollers, nothing is supposed to, like it's not supposed to go unstable. But we have to put at least one pin on it. We have to restrain the horizontal displacement somehow, because that is considered that there can be a like the transverse load can be a little inclined, and in that case, if the transverse load is even a little inclined without vertical, it will have a horizontal component and the beam will move, causing instability. So we have to, while we are finding out the degree of structural indeterminacy of beams, we have to consider the horizontal, that sigma fx equal to 0 as well. Boundary conditions, roller supports only. Let's see, this is a roller support basically. So it doesn't let, like if the roller support is resting on, like a roller support can be idealized by a pen, for example. The transfer, this direction displacement will not be allowed, but this is allowed. So x direction is allowed, and then rotation is also allowed, but the vertical force is restrained. A pin support restrains the x and the y direction displacements, but allows the moment. And a fixed support restrains all three of those. Structural indeterminacy, this is a concept we have seen in quite detail in the past few weeks, because we have been looking at indeterminate structures. There is static indeterminacy, then there is kinematic indeterminacy, and that actually quantifies the degree of redundancy in a structure. And bending moment and shear force diagram, BMD and SFT, which are drawn. The profile of bending moment and shear force is drawn along the length of the beam, and it is one of the most important topics of this course. And it is also very important because it gives us the force or stress type responses for beams. And commonly, beam elements are a representative or a good representative of most structural elements. So if you know everything if you know all the structural analysis of a beam, generally you will be able to extend it to frame or trusses by the concept, if your concept is clear. Okay. Okay, I said this already. Bending moment is moment that occurs when an external force is applied to the element, causing it to bend. Shear force is force that acts parallel to the cross section of a structural element when an external force is applied. Torsional moment is moment produced by a twisting force. This is a twisting force applied to the body along the transverse axis. And axial force is force that acts in the direction of the axis of a body. This is a visualization. Tension, or it can be compression also. It will still be axial. This is shear. This is bending, and this is torsion. Now, truss element transfers only axial force. Beam element transfers only shear force or bending moment. Frame element transfers axial force, shear force, and bending moment. Roller support restricts displacement only in the direction perpendicular to it. Hinge support restricts displacement in both direction but not rotation. And fixed support restricts restricts displacement in both directions and out of plane moment as well. Now, structural indeterminacy structures that cannot be analyzed using statics or equations of equilibrium only are called indeterminate structures. They require other material properties to be solved. The degree of indeterminacy is the number of unknowns minus the number of equations of equilibrium. This is the static indeterminacy. An external indeterminacy and internal indeterminacy total add up to give the total degree of structural indeterminacy. Examples: this is a cantilever beam. It is determinate since it has three equations of equilibrium. In the 2D plane, it is always three. There are three equations of equilibrium: sigma fx equal to 0, sigma fy equal to 0, and sigma mz equal to 0. And there are three support reactions here. Fixed support will give one horizontal restraint, one vertical restraint, and one moment restraint. So it's a determinate structure. This top cantilever is 1 degree indeterminate since it has one additional force here, additional like reaction force here in form of the roller. This is 3 degree indeterminate. This is 1 degree indeterminate. Internal forces in beams. Now, shear force and bending moment. Now, shear force is due to to visualize shear force and bending moment. We need to cut a section. When you cut a section, because it's an internal force, so it won't be available if you look at the body from the outside. If you go inside the one, like cut a section and see what is happening at the interface of the section, you will see. So this P is an applied shear force, but it is actually just an applied load, and it manifests as a shear force V and an internal moment M. And the sign convention is important. Bending moment is like when you come from the left, clockwise moment is positive, and when you come from the right, anti-clockwise moment is positive, and vice versa. And shear force, when you come from the left, upward is positive, when you come from right downwards is positive, and vice versa. Shear force diagram and bending moment diagram. Now, graphical representation of shear force distribution and bending moment distribution along the length of a beam. Example: this is an example. We have already looked at detailed examples in the first class. Okay, week 2. We move on to week 2, which was about trusses. Just give me 1 second, please. So, for trusses, we started with idealization of trusses. So, the elements are drawn as single lines, and we have seen how from real life trusses we can make a truss ideal for our structural analysis. Then, stability of trusses and solving member forces and truss using method of joints and method of sections. What is a truss? Formally, an assembly of two force members connected by nodes that creates a rigid structure. Two force members, pin or hinge supports at both ends, carries no load in between, so the loading can only be at the nodes. It can be in any direction. We can split it into X component and Y component and analyze it. Only have two forces acting upon them at the hinges. Member is only under axial loading, no shear, bending or torsion. So, however the force at the joint may be, it will ultimately align along the length of the truss. Types of axial loading: tension attempts to elongate the member, compression attempts to shorten the member. This is quite easy to visualize. This is an idealization of truss. This is an actual truss bridge, and you see that you take each of these members and represent them as one member in the ideal truss. Stability external must satisfy three equations of equilibrium. All support reactions must not be parallel, because in that case, if whatever the direction of support is, if you put even a small force in the perpendicular direction to that, it will move. And all support must also not be concurrent, because if that happens, if there is there's a rotational instability. If there is a moment along this, it will just rotate. So instability is any sort of rigid body motion. Deformation is allowed, but rigid body motion is not allowed in structures, at least when we are doing static analysis. Internal, no part of truss can move rigidly related to another part. Number of members needed for geometric stability, M is 2j minus 3. So structural indeterminate, that is why the degree of structural indeterminacy truss is calculated as M minus 2j plus 3. We know that. Uh, and members must be arranged such that a truss can be divided into triangular blocks, no rectangular or polygonal blocks. Now, if you just put this in the formula, it will be as if we need 9 members and we have 9 members. But this part is overly stiff, like this part is overly reinforced, and this part is very unstable because if you put a force like this, it will come crumple inside. So we have to take one member from here and give it here or here. Method of joint suitable when forces on all members are to be calculated. At each joint, there are two equations of equilibrium: sigma fx equal to 0, sigma fy equal to 0. Method cannot be applied if the number of unknown forces at a particular joint is more than 2. Sign convention: for tension, points arrows point away from each other; for compressions, arrows point towards each other. A method of joints suitable when forces in all members are to be calculated. At each joint, there are two equations of equilibrium. This method cannot be applied if the number of unknown forces at a particular joint is more than 2. So you have to approach it in such a way. We have to start with a node with where there are only two unknowns. Then once you find out those two member forces, you can move on to the next joint, which maybe had three unknowns before, but now has a member forces node. So that's how we progress. This is the sign convention. For tension, away from the node; for compression, towards the node. Method of sections: it is suitable when forces are required only in a few members. Whole truss is cut into portions via sections, and equilibrium of each portion is considered. Three equations of equilibrium equations must be satisfied in each portion: sigma fx equal to 0, sigma fy equal to 0, sigma mz equal to 0. And phase 3, the first principle of virtual work, unit load method to determine displacements in truss. Work done by a force. Now, this is like the force, and there's a the displacement direction is ds, and the angle between it is theta. So, and as the force, the direction of the force might change, and the direction of the displacement might also change. So, it is integral fx dx. Conservative force, work done is path independent, for example, gravity. Non-conservative force, work done is path dependent, for example, friction. So the work done by friction here is dependent on the length we are dragging the block through. While if it is gravity, if you drop a ball straight, or if it goes up zigzag path, ultimately the work done will be mgh anyway. So this is a conservative force. This is a non-conservative force. If you take a block through a longer route, it will undergo more frictional resistance. At equilibrium, a structure deforms such that its potential energy is minimized. External loads is equal to internal forces. External work is equal to internal work. Principle of virtual work: the work done by a real force acting through a virtual displacement, or a virtual force acting through a real displacement. It says that in equilibrium, the virtual work of forces applied to a system is zero. So this is a like we already know that for equilibrium F equal to mg from force considerations, but even from the principle of virtual work, the concept will be that this delta star equal to F delta star, so F equal to mg. The application of this principle of virtual work is unit load method to find deflection of trusses, response of a structure, forces or stresses, and displacement or strains. So in a truss, member forces is one sort of response which we have seen in as in method of sections and method of joints, and nodal displacement is a displacement type of response that we find out through the unit load method. It is a technique to quantify displacements or rotations of equilibrium configuration of a structure, that is the shape of the structure after it has managed to equilibrate the applied loads. Virtual unit load is applied at the node where we want to calculate displacement. So if I want to find the x displacement at a particular node, I put a one kilonewton load in that direction, at that node in the x direction. It can be like this or that. Ultimately, the sign will give us the actual direction. And if I want to find out the y displacement at the same node, I have to put a one kilonewton load in the vertical direction. Analogically, virtual unit moment is applied to the node where we want to calculate slope. This is not valid for trusses because in truss there is only x or y displacement at the nodes. But for a beam or truss, the virtual this unit load method is applicable to find out displacement type response in any structure. So if you want to find out the slope at some point, you can apply a 1 kilonewton meter moment at that point and analyze in the same way. For unit load, external virtual work is 1 into delta. That is how we get the delta. Since external virtual work is equal to internal virtual work, delta is internal virtual work. The steps, I won't go into the details, but ultimately we have to draw a table where there is a P system of forces, K system of forces, and you will have an L column of L, A, E, so that you can find out the P, K, L by A, E for each member, and you can add those and you can get the delta at whichever point you have applied the load at. Phase 4, deflection of beams, elastic curve equation method, moment area method, and week 5, conjugate beam method. So these are the 4-step responses in beams. it is in beam theory, there's neutral surface, neutral axis, and the deflection curve. So this, I have some book. So suppose this is a beam. So the neutral surface will be something here. So this entire thing, like if this is the neutral axis, and this entire thing will be the neutral surface. Like imagine you cut the beam, and then this is the neutral surface, and the neutral axis will be this surface where the surface cuts this of the beam. So this line will be the neutral axis, and the deflection curve will, once the beam deflects, the the curve that the neutral axis follows is called it's formally called the elastic curve or the deflection curve, which we want to find out. That is a representation of the deflection of the entire beam. Euler-Bernoulli beam assumptions. Beam is infinitely rigid in its own plane. Cross section of the beam remains plane to the deformed axis. And cross section of the beam remains normal to the deformed axis. All these you just need as theory. Just remember this because you might get questions in GATE or even in this exam. But you generally don't need the direct applications of this. Generally, the questions will be numericals. This is just part of a theory you need to remember. Governing differential equation of a beam is that m is minus ei d2w dx square. This minus is a sign convention that can be written as plus also. And ei d4w dx to the power 4 is qx, where m is the bending moment, q is the shear force, w or is the transverse vertical deflection. It is often says that represented by y also. X is the distance along the length axis of the beam, E is Young's modulus, and I is second moment of area geometry property. So the E is material property and I is the geometry property. These are two important. Why are these two properties, like material properties and geometry properties, are important? Because these are the two properties which we use during design to make a structure not fail. Like if a beam fails in my analysis, I can either give it a stronger material, I can increase the grade of concrete or the grade of steel, or I can increase the dimensions, I can make it deeper, wider. So that will be that will be a geometric property. M, Q, and W vary along the length of axis, so they are all functions of x. Compatibility or continuity conditions are like they are essential for solving indeterminate structures. Considering their displacement equilibrium, they need to be satisfied for determinate structures as well. The concept is at a single point in a structure, there cannot be more than one displacement. Otherwise, there will be discontinuity. There cannot be jump. Like whether you come to a point from the right or the left, the ultimate deflection or rotation has to be consistent from both sides. Otherwise, there will be a jump. No? That means the structure has failed. That is not allowed. Displacement at any point on the beam must be same for all time. There can be no sudden changes in the displacement at any point, and similarly for slope as well. So the moment area method, this is theorem 1. It says that the change in slope between any 2 points on the elastic curve equals the area of the m by e diagram between these 2 points. And theorem 2 says the vertical deviation of a point B on elastic curve with respect to the tangent which is extended from another point C. So it needs 3 points equals to the moment. It needs 2 points, but it needs a tangent at one of those points. Equals the moment of the area under the m by e diagram between those 2 points. This moment is computed about point B, where deviation from B to C is to be determined. Conjugate beam method, it is a technique used to analyze beams and frames by transforming your real beams into imaginary or conjugate beams. Momentary and conjugate beam methods are actually essentially the same. They implement the same concept in two different approaches. Most people are comfortable with one of the two approaches, but you can be asked either one. So do learn these methods properly. We apply principle of virtual work and static equilibrium on conjugate beams to solve for unknowns and understand the behavior of the real beam under various loading conditions. Is a principle of duality. The real beam is subject to loads and support conditions, and which is transformed into an equivalent imaginary beam, which has the same length and is subjected to loads equivalent to the bending moments along the length of the real beam. So the M by EI diagram of the real beam is the load on the conjugate beam, and the sign convention is same as bending moment diagram. And so this is how. And there's a rule of duality for the boundary conditions. A fixed support becomes free becomes fixed, hinge remains hinged, and a knife edge or middle support becomes an internal hinge, and vice versa. And the last topic of phase 1, that is determinate structures, was influence line diagram. There are two types of loads, dead loads and live loads. Dead loads are the self weight of the structure and the flooring, stationary and constant loads. They do not change over the lifetime of a structure. unless variation, hence variation of bending moment, shear force, deflection along the sections are also constant. So far, whatever we have done, all the analysis, we have considered that the position of the load doesn't change, right? So we were basically working with static loads, but live loads, the furniture and the people weight in building, wheel loads and passenger weights in bridges, that is always moving. So we need some, so the position and magnitude vary with time, and we need some sort of way to analyze moving loads. And the influence line diagrams or ILD is the way to do that. It is a diagram that represents the variation of stress functions such as bending moment, shear force, reaction force, slope, or deflection at a fixed section when a unit concentrated load moves from one end to the other end. Now, when we are drawing a diagram, we cannot both move the load and the section. So, bending moment and shear force diagram, the coordinate of the diagram at any point represents the section, the value of the thing at that section. But for an influence line diagram, we have to fix the section so that we can imagine the load is moving, and that's why the diagram is changing. Once we have ILD for particular stress function at a particular section, we utilize principle of linear superposition to calculate total effect due to a combination of loads. Okay. Then phase two was about indeterminate structures. We'll go into that answer.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Just one
Ma'am, any
second.
problem? Okay, okay, okay.
Yes. Do you have any doubt?
No, no, no.
Okay. Just one
Sorry,
second.
ma'am.
It's fine. It's fine. Just. So, phase two, we started with review of degree of structural indeterminacy, introduction to force and displacement methods, Maxwell-Betty's reciprocal theorem, and method of consistent deformations, which is a force method. Structural indeterminacy, structure that cannot be analyzed using statics or equations of equilibrium only are called indeterminate structures. They require other material properties to be solved. And the degree of indeterminacy is number of unknown reactions minus the number of equations of equilibrium. These we have already looked at in the recent weeks, so I won't go into much details. Week 7, method of consistent deformation applied to beams, then trusses, then frames, and the overall framework remains the same. And force compatibility of flexibility methods, and there are of these there are so many types, but we generally focus on method of consistent deformation only. And displacement, equilibrium, or stiffness methods. We have moment distribution, slope deflection, and stiffness matrix. All three are important, and we have to study stiffness matrix method in the last class of the session, which is tomorrow. These are the differences between the two methods summarized. For force methods, unknowns are taken as internal member forces or reactions. For displacement methods, unknowns are taken as joint displacements. To find unknowns in force method, we write the compatibility conditions while we write the equilibrium conditions. So that's why displacement methods are also called equilibrium methods, and force methods are also called as compatibility methods. And the method is this method is suitable when degree of static indeterminacy is lesser, as we have seen that the number of unknown forces, the number of additional redundant forces is the degree of static indeterminacy. So that is the number of extra equations we need in force method. And in displacement method is the opposite. The number of additional degrees of freedom So that is the degree of kinematic indeterminacy. That is the number of additional equations we need. So this method is suitable when degree of static indeterminacy is greater than degree of kinematic indeterminacy, because obviously we want to solve less number of equations. Now, the steps for method of consistent deformation: find degree of indeterminacy, choose statically determinate and stable primary structure, identify the redundants and compute displacement of primary structure subjected to external loading and redundants separately at those points where conditions of compatibility exist, solve the redundants using conditions of compatibility, plot BMD and SFT by superimposing effects of redundants and given loading on the primary structure. Then slope deflection method we have looked at in 3 weeks ago, and moment distribution method we looked at the last week. We so there I won't go into these details because you have I hope you have practiced them recently. Hello, hello, আমি একটা NPTEL এর ক্লাস নিচ্ছি, একটু পরে তোমাকে ফোন করবো। ঠিক আছে, টাটা। And finally, the stiffness metric method we look at next week. So I didn't go into the details of these because we have just discussed them 2 weeks for the last 2 weeks. So are there any questions? Okay, if there are no questions, I will end the class. Tomorrow we'll discuss the stiffness matrix method, which is the last topic of the course. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, uh, please explain conjugate beam method.
Okay. I'll go to the conjugate beam method lecture then. Okay, let's go with an example. What is your doubt? Look at this example.
Uh,
This
Ma'am,
is a
just explain. Just
Okay.
explain, ma'am.
Okay, so this is a cantilever beam. This is a real beam. So
Okay.
when I find out the conjugate beam, what are the inputs we need? We need the length of the beam, we need the support conditions, and we need the loading. To solve
Okay.
any structure, these are the things we need. So we first, to get the loading is defined as, for the real beam, first draw the bending moment diagram that you can do. The bending moment
Yes.
diagram here is a triangle like this, and it says that the loading on the conjugate beam will be equal to the M by EI diagram. So you draw the moment diagram here, the value is 36, and you divide it by EI. So 36 by EI to 0 linear distribution, that is a load I'm going to apply on the conjugate beam. So
Okay.
this is applied. Okay. Now the other thing to do is the length. The length remains same. That is in the theory of conjugate beam, that the real beam and the conjugate beam lengths will be same. So I draw a 12-foot beam. I put a loading, triangular loading, and then I have to address the boundary conditions. So it says here that a fixed support will become a free end in the conjugate beam, and the free end in the
Okay.
real beam will become a fixed support. So what do we do here? Here this was a free end, so in the conjugate beam I make a fixed support here, and here it was a fixed end, so I make a free end here. We have this.
Oh,
Now I have the full conjugate beam. Now that I have this, I can find out the bending moment and shear force at any section of this beam, right? You're capable of
yes.
doing that once you have this. And what does the conjugate beam theory say? That, one second, where is it? So it says that now the rules for extracting response of real beam from conjugate beam. It says that bending moment at any section of the conjugate beam is equal to the deflection of the real beam at that section. So if I tell you that give me the deflection at this free end, if that is the question, then you will do is you will first draw the conjugate beam, and then you will
Yes.
find the bending moment at this section. That will be, magnitude will be equal to the deflection at this point in the real beam. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. That is the deflection of that beam. It is the magnitude of that beam.
Exactly. And the rotation, if I ask you the slope, what was the slope at the free end A, then you have to find out the shear force at A of the conjugate beam, and the magnitude will be equal to the slope. Okay.
Okay. In this work, it is a virtual work method, no ma'am? Virtual work.
See, actually, ultimately, these are all virtual work methods. Like they are all the concept comes from the same place, but
Yes, yes.
this is not explicitly a virtual work method. It is just called the conjugate beam method.
Okay.
Virtual
But
work method is
unit load provided is there or not?
unit load method is applicable for any structure. It is applied for trusses, beams, or frames. But the unit load method, if like explicitly, is what we studied in week 3 by drawing the table. We actually did it only for truss, like we draw a table like this and find out the sigma
Yes,
pkl by ae, right?
yes.
Similarly, applying a similar concept, we can do it for beams as well. You just have to change some of these things, like the AE in the denominator will become EI for beams. You can find that in any book, but it can be used. Virtual work method can be used to find out slope and deflection in any structural elements.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, okay then we'll meet next class tomorrow with stiffness matrix method.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for attending. I'll end the class. Any more doubts?
No,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, thank you.